The 14th of August, Rabbi Levitt, Gemora.
Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go.
I'm walking.
Oh, good morning, Phil.
Good morning. I'm walking, and if it's too noisy, I'll put it on silent. But I can't read.
Okay, nice. Like those sunglasses.
Well, it's sunny out here. I'm walking to meet the kids.
Where are you?
Just in the neighborhood walking. I have to walk to meet the kids to the museum.
Oh, okay, so let's see here.
18 A1 8A1. That's what I have. Number 8A1.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see here. Wow, what are we trying to do over here? Oh, that's what we're trying to do. We were trying to determine whether this, when it says yachloiku, it means an actual physical division of the property, or does it mean only a monetary division of the property? And the Gemora seemed to include over here from the case of the Mishnah. We're on, the Gemara brought the Mishnah, and this is on the fourth line from the top of the page. On 8A, towards the top of the page, so I guess it would be in your first page in Art Scroll. The brought. What's that?
Fourth paragraph on the left-hand side, I think.
So the Gemara brings a quote from the Mishnah on Amid Beis. Hayushnaim rochvin al gabe behema. V'hule. The cases where people are disputing a behema. Two people riding on a behema. One leading, the other one riding. And there's a dispute, who owns the behema? Zemar kulu shali, this one says the whole animal's mine, this one says the whole animal is mine. And the Mishnah says, this one swears he has no less than half in the animal, and this one does likewise, and then we say, Yachleiku. So that we say Yachleiku, Gemara says, Hachanami the Palgela. Would you say that it means over here that we're going to do a physical division of the donkey? Hafsiduhu. That will cause a loss in the value of the disputed property. That would be senseless. And the Gemara said, Bishlema. Actually, we could understand if we would be talking about that it could be a physical division if it would be a tahora, if it would be a kosher animal. So then the meat would be worth something. It would be worth a fair amount. What the donkey is worth. I mean, what the animal is worth. It wouldn't be a donkey. would be a kosher animal. Hazia lebasar. Then it would be good to for eating. Ella Tamea, but the animal that the Mishnah is talking about, well, actually, the Mishnah doesn't say what type of animal it's talking about. It just says they're riding on a behemoth. Doesn't say what type of animal the behemoth is. But the Gemara says, if the Mishnah is also referring to a behemoth Tamea, which cannot be eaten, afsidua. So to physically divide it would create a loss in the value of the animal. Because to sell it to a goy for meat would not be nearly the amount of value that you could get from the animal through it being a work animal. And that would probably be because the goy would know that you're selling the animal because you can't eat it yourself. So it's sort of like a forced sale, and he's not going to give so much money for it, I would assume. So it wouldn't be the same thing as with a kosher animal. So since the Mishnah only said behemoth, it didn't specify that it's talking specifically about this type of a behemoth, kosher animal, tahora, or a tamea animal. It didn't specify. So it's clear that the Mishnah is talking about both animals, both types of animals, and the din is yachleiku. So if so, then we must conclude, says the Gemora, that the division that it says in the Mishnah of Yachloiku is obviously not a physical division that the Mishnah is referring to. It's referring to L'demei, to divide it in a monetary sense, what it's worth. And so then the Gemara agrees, Hakanami L'demei. That in fact is the din. When we say yachloku, we mean a monetary division. Also, in our case, the case that we were talking about, in what case we were talking about, if you'll ask that question, that's a good question. We were talking about the case where two people are holding on to a star. We're talking about when we say yachloku, we mean a monetary division, not physically dividing the piece of paper and giving half to this one and half to that one. Okay. Okay, so now that concludes that discussion. Now the Gemara is going on to another different discussion. Amar Rami bar Chama. Rami bar Chama. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 lines down from the top of the page. 8a. The second half of the line, the first word in the line is Ella.
On the right-hand column, the second paragraph, starting, the Gemara returns to discuss an implicit ruling.
Okay.
Okay.
We call upon Roy to start the reading.
Okay. The Gemara returns to discuss an implicit ruling of our Mishnah on 2a. That is, if two people pick up a found object simultaneously, each acquires half the object. So the Gemara deduces, Omer Rami Bar Chama. Rami Bar Chama said, Zos Omeres, this teaches that Hamagabia Metzia Lechabiro. If one lifts a found object intending to acquire it entirely for his fellow, he lifts a found object intending to acquire it entirely for his fellow, then his fellow acquires it. Silko de toch la kana habiro. For if it should enter your mind that his fellow does not acquire it, ta'aseh zo b'mei al gobe karaka. Then in the Mishnah's case, let this end of the object be considered as if it were lying on the ground. And this other end of the object be considered as if it was lying on the ground. Below yikne below ze, and neither this litigant nor that litigant could acquire the object. Lan shema mina. Rather, if infer from this ruling in the Mishnah that hamakabia mitzvah lachabiro, if one picks up a found object intending to acquire it entirely for his fellow, kana habaro, then his fellow acquires the object. Why on the earth would
This
you-
is a wonderful statement over here, except we can't understand at all what it's talking about. With all due respect to Art Scroll, I'll tell you why. Amar Rami Ruchama says, Zos Omeres, this means, and then it says, this means that you you pick up the thing and for your friend, acquire it. What we're left in the dark over here from the word go. When the Gemora says Zos Omeres, we don't know what Rami Bar Chama is referring to. So we can't possibly understand what this means unless we know what he's referring to. So I'm positive that Rashi is going to have to tell us what it's referring to, because otherwise, how are we supposed to figure this out? Yeah, there's a Zos Omeres here. Rashi, there's 3 full lines of Rashi over here. Rashi's going to tell us the whole story here. Zos Omeres, good. Rashi's, in other words, going to have to identify for us when it says Zos Omeres, it's referring to something probably that we learned before, but what exactly it's referring to? It could be anything from the Mishnah, anything from what we've learned in the last 8 pages. Who knows what it's referring to? Rashi, Baruch Hashem, he's got it, and he's going to tell us. Okay. And who should read? Lou's going to read, please. Zos Omeres, it's the top line of Rashi.
Zos Omeres. This is what he says, or this is what it says. Mashnisim dikatane shnayim sheha gevehu Shahagivihu Metzia Kanahu V'yich Roku Uke Shemagbia Magbei L'das Sheyikna Bei Savero Metzia Shmamina Metzia Kule Ulatamad Arich Dioka Darme Bar Chama Rami Bar Chama Micha Bava Mimasnisnu Hu Lamad. Okay, so this is what it says in our Mishnah that we learned to that they lift up something that they found that they acquire and they divide. In that they lifted it up. The das to the opinion Sheikna that they acquired it, Chavero, that he acquired it for his friend, Chetzi, half. Shmamina, hear from this. Hamakbia, Mechetzi, I'm sorry, Metzia Kule. He lifted up a found object, etc. And later on, Harich, Dibaka, I don't know. Harich Dibaka, I don't know.
Yuka, inference.
Inference. There's an inference that Rami Bar
Lakame Porith.
Pardon?
Lakame Porith. Later on, the Gemora is going to challenge a pircha. It's going to ask a challenging question. Yuka, the inference, Rami Bar Chama.
From here, may Yazoo, I don't know.
Mehecha. From where? From where does it come?
Right. What's the word after Mehecha?
Me'ezu. From which?
Which? Bava, house.
From which Bava means a portion of the Mishnah Senu.
Which portion of our Mishnah he learned this?
Yeah.
Okay. What did Rashi just say?
Okay. So now you have to understand this expression zosomeris. Zosomeris literally means that, like you said, that's the literal translation. This says. So Rabbi Bar Chama is saying this says that somebody lifts up an item with the intention that his friend acquire it, his friend will acquire it. So just hearing what the Rabbi Bar Chama says, we said before, it leaves us with a question. When you say this says, what's the this that you are referring to? And so there's two parts of Rashi. The first part of Rashi is, Rashi tells us what it is that Rabbi Bar Chama, where it is that he's referring to. He tells us very clearly. And after having told us that very clearly, Rashi says, in fact, Lakamai Porech. But you should know that later on, the Gemora itself is going to ask this question. Diyuka de Rami Bar Chama mehecha. This inference that Rami Bar Chama made, where is he making this inference from? What's it based on? We don't even know where it is that he's referring to, because all he said is this means to say that blah blah blah, that somebody picks up an item with the intention that his friend should acquire it, his friend will acquire it. Which is exactly the question that we asked. So whenever you see these words zosomeris in the Gemora, you got to know that there's going to be a Rashi waiting for you, who's going to tell you where it is that the inference is being made. But that's what the word, that's what it means, zosomeris. We can infer from some place the following halacha. Okay. That's what Rashi is saying. Masnisin diktani shnaim shehegbiu Metzia kanua v'yachloku. Rashi tells us that the Rami Bar Chama is referring to the Mishnah. The Mishnah where we learned in the Mishnah, when two people lift up a Metzia, a lost item, Kanua, they both acquire it, V'achloku. They both make an acquisition. And we accordingly we divide it between them. This is probably the first Mishnah. Yeah. Is it the first Mishnah? Okay.
Rabbi Levitt, you're muted.
I don't know how that happened. If you take a look at the word in the Gemora, You'll have to take a look in your standard column of the Gemora over here. Art Scroll doesn't have this. You look at your standard column of the Gemora, by the word Hamagbia, so you'll see that the Masoras Hashatz refers to this. It's on Daf Yud. Okay, wherever it is. I'm not going to get into that. Okay, but that's what Rashi's saying. Rashi is saying we didn't really learn this yet. We didn't really learn this yet. What the Gemara is referring to and what Rashi's explaining. We didn't learn it. But Rashi's saying that Rashi's explaining because when each one lifts up the item, both of them lifted it up. When each one lifts it up, he's lifting his side up with das, with the intention in mind, sheyikne bo havero hatzia, that his friend, the other person, will acquire a portion of this item as well. He's like leaving room for the other person to acquire the other side of this item that he himself is picking up right now.
And he's going to share it.
Yeah. And from there, Rami Bar Chama is saying we can make an inference. We can make an inference from that din in the Mishnah to the case that Rami Bar Chama is telling us. That when one person lifts up an item that's Metzia, meaning it's not owned by anybody. It's a found item which is basically Hefker. He's finding it. If he picks it up with the thought in mind that he wants this item to be acquired by his friend will in fact acquire it. How does Rami Bar Chama know that? He knows that based upon the case when two people pick it up. Okay. Okay, so that's so now let's take a look again at what okay. Now the next part of the Gemora, but Isok Daitak, is Rami Bar Chama continuing to speak. I think we have to mute out Phil. Is that better? Quieter? Yeah. Isok Daitak lo ikona chavero. Because if you would have thought that in such a case, his friend will not acquire it, Tiyasezu kami shemunakas al gabe karka. Tiyasezu kami shemunakas al gabe karka, vizu kami shemunachas al gabe karka, v'lo yikne lo zeh v'lo zeh. Okay, so this statement has to be explained over here. What is he saying, and what does it mean? He's proving his inference with the following idea. Rashi's not helping us too much. He just writes 4 words. What does this mean over here?
V'chol aroza yistafna miyadam. Each one grabs a portion in his hand.
Yichatfenu miyadam. Well, what Rashi's just telling, I really don't understand why Rashi's what he's doing. Okay, so let's just translate the words that Rashi says. They don't really help us too much to understand what the Gemora is saying. I don't think so. But anyway, the Gemora is saying that if you thought that that's otherwise, other than what Rabbi Amir Bar Chama is saying, so then it'll come out that it's regarded as though the thing, the object is still sitting on the ground, and neither one of them has been kona anything. And then Rashi says that's what it means, lo yikne lo zeh lo zeh, and therefore this one will not acquire, and that one also won't acquire. And if so, Rashi says, v'kol harotza, and whoever would want, yichatfenu miyodam. He, the third person, in other words, whoever would want, meaning a third person, kol harotza, whoever would want, yitchatfenu miyodam. He would grab it away, he would snatch it away, miyodam, from both of their hands, both of those two, because they didn't acquire it at all, neither one of them, nothing. And that would allow a third party to come and grab it from them. Now, why Rashi had to tell us that, I don't know. I mean, if they didn't acquire it, then obviously the thing is still hefker. And obviously that would mean that a third party could grab it. But the question is, what's the proof that Rami Bar Chama is adducing to his halacha? That Rashi didn't help us with at all. All the words from De'iso Kadaitach until you get to this conclusion of Lo Yikne Lo Zeh V'Lo Zeh need to be understood. Here is where Rami Bar Chama is proving his assertion that this, in fact, would be the halacha. Iso Kadaitach, because if you thought Lo Kona Chavero, that when Jew number 1 picks up a lost item, which is hefker, I suppose, that he could make a kinyan in. He could make it a kinyan himself, but he picked it up with the intention that Jew number 2 should acquire it. If you don't say that he could do that, lo kona chavero, so then says zu kami shemunachas al gabe karka kami shemunachas al gabe karka. What does that mean? What's the zu referring to? That would make this as though it's still lying on the ground, and this as though it's still lying on. And that would mean that neither one of them would acquire anything. Wow. Now, are we talking? So the first question we have to determine is, what are these two words, zu, what are they referring to? Shelo kana chavero taseh zu kamisha dain agabe karka v'zu kamisha dain agabe karka. Maybe it's talking about the two people that grabbed the item together and they picked it up together. So he's saying, unless you said, and if you would say that one person that picks it up cannot acquire it for a second person, so then when both of them pick it up, neither one of them will be able to acquire it because it will be regarded as it's still lying on the ground for some reason. Why is it still lying on the ground? Both of them are picking it up. Why is it still lying on the ground?
My footnote points out that a kinyan hagba is valid only if the entire object was lifted off the ground on behalf of the prospective owner. If only part was lifted for him, the kinyan is void and nothing at all is acquired. Maybe that's why we consider it as if it's laying on the ground.
Is that footnote 5?
That's right. Look at 6 also. 6 also talks about this.
שלא כל החברו אס המציע, תיאסם מחסיס זו של המציע שהגביה האחד, ומי שעדיין מונח על גבי הקרקע, כלפי השני, וכן מחסיס זו השנייה, כמי שעדיין לא שהרי כל אחד. Okay, so in this case where both of them are found this item of Hefker that could be acquired, each one of them is lifting up only half of the item, and the other half is being lifted up by the other person. So if the lifting up of the second person each one is lifting it up. Each one is only lifting up a portion of the item. And the other portion Okay, it's a tough one. Yeah, that does have something to do with that, what you're saying. You're saying that the rule is that to acquire something from Hefker, the whole item has to be picked up. And in this case, when two people are picking up, neither one of them is picking up the whole thing. The other part is being picked up by the other person. And so neither one of them is really picking up the whole thing. And if they're not picking up the whole thing, then how can either one of them make any acquisition whatsoever? Maybe that's the point. And the Gemora expresses it in a very strange way. It's as though it's still lying on the ground, meaning to say it's as though it was not acquired. If it's all lying on the ground, it hasn't been acquired because we said that it has to be lifted up. Well, it is being lifted up, but it's not being entirely lifted up by either one of them. So each one's lifting up of his portion is preventing the other one from making any acquisition. Unless you're going to say that each one of them is lifting it up and giving permission to the other one to make an acquisition to allow them to acquire the other portion of the talus, which is what Rashi said in the first Rashi. Okay, we'll take a look at it tomorrow, Be'ezus Hashem.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Okay,
It's
take
good
care.
to see you tomorrow.
Be
Everybody
well.
have a great day.
Bye for
Good.
now.
Should be back home tomorrow. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, Phil.
Okay.